Welcome to San Miguel TV. What's good? We're going to talk about the IUIC right now. It is Sunday, November 30th. We're going to talk about a little cult, a big cult named Israel United in Christ. Thank y'all for coming through. I'll post a link for you to join in the comment section so anybody knows that they can join, especially if you know anything about the IUIC, if you're a former member, current member, if you want to talk about what's actually going on in the IUIC, because maybe, I didn't get it right. We can talk about it. This is San Miguel TV again. Let's go ahead. Show y'all what's going on right now. This would be the IUIC Rochester's Instagram page, where you can see Asaph, Abayel, and a few other pretty well-known faces in the IUIC. See, we got Jason Creed in the house. What's good, Jason? What's going on? Welcome.
Hey, boss. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm here just talking about a few things regarding the IUIC tonight, man.
Okay. I was trying to comment on the comments section on your live stream, and I don't think there's a way to comment, or maybe mine just loaded wrong. I'm sorry.
Oh, I see some people commenting. Yeah, I see
Okay.
Inside the Line said grace and peace, de lo mío.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah,
Sorry about that, bro.
I see Willie. No, you're good. Yeah, it's probably because I wasn't live yet, maybe.
Okay.
Because I just got on a little minute ago, but
I saw you was talking to Deacon it's the Vasaf.
Yep.
Asaph.
I was talking to Asaph
On X.
on Clubhouse.
Clubhouse. I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah, it's on Clubhouse. Let me see. Yeah, Clubhouse is pretty much an easy way for if you don't want to debate anybody, you could control the narrative and control the room pretty good. You could kick somebody out, you can mute them. It's people, they like to use that. Also, you don't have to show your face, and you can have a bunch of people on. You can add people as moderators, and you can add people as like somebody that could control the group also. So yeah, so I mean, that's the IUIC. Like, that's some of the men there. That's how they dress. They usually wear the purple and gold, for those that don't know. What do you know about the IUIC? I don't know if I don't think you ever been down with IUIC, right?
No, I've never been around IUIC, but I'm very familiar about it.
Yeah.
The elder is Nathaniel.
Yep. The elder is what they call Bishop Nathaniel. I don't really follow them that much. At least when you look at the history of my channel, I haven't been really going into it too much. I definitely had some run-ins with them before, and some of y'all could see those videos, encounters with IUIC, I think it was called. Yeah. So Nathaniel is he used to be down with the House of David before he created the IUIC in 2003. So I know, people know who Nathaniel is.
Used to have a good family show. Well,
Yeah.
it was like a Hebrew. Those were like family show, sort of.
Okay.
They were more of a family oriented type group. Just
Yeah,
being
yeah, they
fair and honest.
definitely. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
they definitely include the family. They honor family men.
Right.
I was watching a video of a gentleman named Abayel who always comes up, who's known for getting things kind of started out here in Orlando.
Right.
And then you have Kanai, who was also in Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I believe he was in Orlando. It could have been the outskirts like Claremont or Apopka.
Mm-hmm.
They're known for popping up in an area called Pine Hills out here in Florida. Some
Mm-hmm.
people call it Crime Hills. It's the hood out here in it's like a little bit towards the west side of Orlando. Um,
Okay.
and then now you can find them in Apopka. I'm familiar with them because my cousin is part of the IUIC. I have an older cousin that's been down with them for some years now. So
Oh, I didn't know that at
yeah,
all.
yeah, he used to be in the ISUPK. So I'm familiar with the IUIC. I'm not completely,
And
just like whatever.
he's he's Dominican like you.
Yeah, he's Dominican.
Okay.
So I think his mother is my grandmother's sister. So his mother's like my great aunt or something like that.
Okay.
So yeah, I used to see him back when we were young. When I was younger, I was a teenager, and I would actually remember going out to Yonkers where he was at and seeing my family, him, his brother. He got a brother, he got a sister. And we would go out there and we spend time together, because I grew up with my grandmother and their sisters, his mom and my grandmother's sisters. So they were in close contact. And sometimes they'll come out to Queens and see us. But it wasn't until I was already living in Orlando and I was like 17, 18. And my cousin comes out to Orlando, who's in the IUIC, my older cousin. He was kind of at the moment, this was 2003, and he was in limbo, leaving the ICUPK and not really, being part of a group, but still believing that he's an Israelite.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, to be honest, we were about to smoke weed, and like we ended up talking about this stuff, and we're smoking weed together. He's supposed to be telling me about being an Israelite, but whatever, we're there rolling up, lighting up. So that's supposed to be wrong, of course. He's probably not he's probably ashamed of that.
Mm-hmm.
But he ended up joining the IUIC years later. But at that night that we were smoking and talking and all of that, zoning out, he's there telling me about Simeon and Levi. So he's talking about what's known as the 12 tribes chart, pretty much, and the 12 tribes chart includes um, Simeon and Levi, these as the Dominicans and the Haitians. So this is an identity cult. So they're trying to identify who's who today. So they use the same sign that the ISUPK use, the ICGJC use. They
Is the
continue that same
GMS
lie.
uses the same thing, right?
Yeah, yeah, GMS. Yeah, because you were part of GMS, right?
Right.
Yeah. So yeah,
I was affiliated with
you were
GMS, not
affiliated,
really.
right? I remember you
Yeah,
telling me
affiliated.
something like that.
I want to be very careful, how I say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, right. But this is the same thing that they teach in GMS. These are all Hebrew Israelite cults, little groups
Right.
that try to identify you with somebody in the Bible. That's their their hook right there and their bait. Of course, they use identity in the Bible, and they don't really go into how that even makes sense. They don't like to go into the breakdown of the 12 tribes. We can easily show how these guys will teach that a scripture talking about Benjamin or something, for example, how it says, Benjamin shall raven as a wolf. They'll try to use scriptures like that to show like this is a tribe, this is a person, and this is why this scripture talks about, and when they go into the breakdown, I wish we could go into it because I do have a video that I'm editing where it's pretty much Nathaniel's 12 tribes breakdown that is like the only one you'll ever see online is Nathaniel like in a, I don't know, some purple garment, I get, a blue garment. It's like 3 hours long. I think they break it up into parts, but that's part of when Nathaniel was that was back when Nathaniel was part of the house of David. So he's been jumping around from one group to another.
That was back in the 90s, I think, right?
Yeah, that had to be sometime
late 90s,
in the late 90s. Yeah, I would say
early 2000s.
Yeah, I would say something like that.
Yeah.
It had to be before 2003.
Okay.
I'm just looking at like the quality of the video and thinking like it might be around like 98, 96, maybe.
Right.
I'm not sure, but Nathaniel goes back a few years there. And yeah, this is their actual 12 tribe sign. It has IUIC's logo on it. ICGJC would do the same thing. They'll create their 12 tribes chart with their logo on it, so nobody else uses it. But using Deuteronomy 28, I don't know why they put Deuteronomy 28, 15 through 68 on the 12 tribes chart.
Yeah, because the Northern Kingdom left way before that, I guess, before the transatlantic slave trade.
Yeah,
I mean, going by their timeline. Excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, if you go by, the curses are mainly talking about the transatlantic slave trade, but I've seen where they try to get away from that and just kind of say, no, this is supposed to happen throughout the generations, and this is something that you can't really label to just one time period. But when they actually talk about it and what happened to them, they talk about the transatlantic slave trade as if that's a curse that makes them Israelites by nationality or whatever,
right?
Which doesn't make sense. If you're going to try to find somebody's genetics or ancestry, some people do ancestry by DNA studies. Some people do an ancestry if they have some type of record of their lineage and who's. There's families that keep those records. Then if you have those things, then you can trace down your ancestry. And even then, when it comes to you just having some paperwork that says that you're part of the some tribe, even then you're gonna have discrepancies because these guys will teach that you are who your father is. So if you're a Comanche or Apache Indian or something, and your father's lineage is white, which that is the case in many cases, you have people that qualify as a Comanche or Apache or any tribe, and their paperwork, they have paperwork to show it somehow, that this is who they are, and they have benefits because Native Americans have benefits where they don't have to pay taxes, in this country, and they live on reservations. Sometimes they have to have that. So there's a case where a lot of their fathers, like Chief Osceola, his father was I believe Spanish. He was definitely European, but he was along. You could see him with the Seminoles, like he was fighting against that last army, and that was sent down to Florida by General Stonewall Jackson, and they were trying to, you can read about it. It's the Seminole Indian Wars, pretty
Right.
much in America.
Now
It went all up to the 1800s, like 1850s.
the Seminoles, those are combinations of African Americans and Native Americans, right?
Well, some of them, there's a few of them, yeah, Seminoles that are African Americans, and yeah, you can see that if you look into let me see, the Black Indians, Seminole Indians. Not all of them, because like I was just
Right.
mentioning, Chief Osceola was considered a Seminole. The Seminoles were part of what they call the 5 civilized tribes, and they were like the last ones that really never were defeated. They actually made a deal at the end of it and never were like taken down or defeated. So when
Okay.
like even with, like, that's what happened to the natives in North America. So when they try to say like Gad is a separate tribe from Reuben, and Gad, a troop shall overcome them, and they say
Right.
U.S. Calgary, it's like there were still Native Americans in all around the United States and northern United States that were making their way down to Florida because they knew Florida was owned by the Spanish, and Florida was already like had already abolished slavery before other parts of the country, because the Spanish they basically had a whole different way of running things down there. But once the American army got involved and things started changing in our map and the way, who owns what part of the United States, and the United States became its own, obviously, through the Civil War, but you still had some Spanish rule for a long time there in Florida, where you had Native Americans that they were free and they weren't subject to any of the slavery laws and indentured servant type laws that the rest of the country had.
Right, because some of the Native Americans own slaves.
Yeah, that's true. Also, exactly.
And
But
adding on to that, some of the Native Americans sold property to the Europeans.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, like things were sold. Mexicans sold. Well, Mexicans
California.
is a whole different thing, but yeah,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, that's of course, that's a little different from what they call Native Americans, because they're gonna say that's Issachar, but there is a difference too, and there's a difference between many Native American tribes. So, like that's how they break it up. That's how you're supposed to. But the way that these guys do it with the 12 tribe sign, it doesn't make sense, because you have all these different tribes that do different things all throughout the northern United States, even going up to Canada. You have Canadian Indians. They're completely different. They have a whole different hunting system and everything than in like the mainlands, and like
Now, are
Oklahoma.
those Gadites?
Exactly right. You go all the way up. How can you say those are Gadites? Nothing like that really makes sense when they talk about those things. But the Seminole tribe of Florida. Seminole means runaway. People were running away to Florida. You had slaves that ended up coming out here too. Runaway slaves that sometimes they'll get caught and put back into their own little indentured servitude or slavery by Native Americans themselves. And Seminole Indians definitely had slaves, and but some of them assimilated with, or the runaway slaves, Africans assimilated with the Native Americans, and then that's why you have a lot of these tribes, even up in Connecticut. You have tribes that are pretty much Afro-Indigenous, they consider them, because they're a mixture of indigenous DNA and African American or African slave, DNA, whatever you want to call it. It's Africans that were transported to America on slave ships, and then their descendants actually come from Africa, but they've been in this country so long that they're American. So, because they're going to be like, how can they be African and American? It's like, that's how it works.
Right.
But, if you want to drop the African, just call them American. That's cool too. Some people call them Black American. This is the history of these things is very complex, and the Hebrew Israelites don't really have a good understanding of, the differences within the Native American tribes. And yeah, I mean, when we talk about IUIC, like when we listen to that conversation, you're going to see some of the names that were dropped by the IUIC. It's going to try to show like people that believed. They were trying to talk about, my conversation that I had with them on the clubhouse. They were trying to talk about how there were Europeans or settlers, Spanish explorers, William Penn being one of these settlers in Pennsylvania that believed that the real Jews, or the lost 10 tribes of Israel, rather, lost tribes, made it out here to the Americas. So that was a common belief amongst some people that had a very, already superstitious belief about themselves. They believed in the Bible already. That's why they're mostly like the friars, like Father Nazario is a person that believed, in the 10 lost tribes being here in the Americas. That's because they already had a worldview that they have that idea of 10 lost tribes or whatever.
Well, that came from Mormonism, right?
Not even, no. The Mormons kind of just ran with it too, and it just became like a word of mouth thing, or a popular teaching. It's like it became a popular doctrine to teach, pretty much, that people thought was fun and interesting. Think about it. You're coming from another part of the world, and you're here in the Americas, and you're finding out, oh, the real tribes, the lost tribes of Israel, are here, and they've been here, and now if you're a Christian, you're going to think that this is like a divine connection for God to bring back the tribes through Christianity, and they felt like they had to teach them Christianity, because they were lost, and they didn't know about Jesus Christ. They've been away. They've been since they're supposed to be since 720 BC. It's supposed to be the time when supposedly the 10 tribes, or at least sometime after that, it's supposed to be the time that the 10 tribes made it from Assyria and came to what they believe America is Arsareth. If you read the Apocrypha and you believe in the Apocrypha, then you're going to have to find a way to make sense of these things, and that's what you read. But yeah, the Seminole Indians, if you look at their ancestry, it has nothing to do with any Hebrew Israelites or anything. Like, yeah, you have people in history that were teaching things like that, but you're not going to find any actual credible sources that teach that Native Americans or Seminole Indians or anything are lost tribes of Israel. But I'm gonna type something out to see what it gives me, because you can search this stuff, you can chat GPT this stuff and see what it says. Or whatever. It's just really, really simple. No, the Seminole people are not of the lost tribes of Israel. This was a historical theory with no factual basis that emerged after European contact with the Americas. The theory was popular for a time. Let me see. And proposed that Native Americans were descendants of the 10 lost tribes of Israel, but it's not supported by evidence, and it's not a belief held by modern scholars, historians, or the Seminole people themselves. This is what we're reading right here. If we want to get the sources, this is just from a combination of sources. People did believe this. Maybe Columbus even believed it. But Columbus really had no real reason to believe it, besides the fact that he was very superstitious, as a lot of the Spanish and Europeans were. And this is something that fit their worldview already, because it's just it's an interesting story to tell. Columbus was already already thought that he might have found the 10 lost tribes before he even left,
Mhm.
and went to Cathay and Cipango. You know, I'm gonna see if I can find the video though, because I kind of want to get right to some of the things that were brought up.
Mhm.
Because when when you go to some of the sources that are used, even if you want to deal with any sources from the IUIC that relates to um, pretty much somebody believing that the Hispanics or Native Americans are Israelites, you're gonna hear William Penn as a source brought up. Somebody that believed, the European that believed that the Israelites that were the Native Americans, pretty much. Um, Let me pull up the video though, because I've been wanting to play this. So let's
Okay.
pull this up. Um, oh yeah, wait, my bad, y'all. Family
Sure.
TV. But yeah, if you got anything you wanted to add onto that, because I mean, it's the same breakdown. Like, how would they tell you what kind of like were some of the things that you would remember when they would try to associate Native Americans with Hebrew Israelites? What do they used to talk about? Bring up?
Well, we would talk about. They would say that the Native Americans were the tribe of Gad,
Right.
and that a troop shall overcome them. That was one of the main character descriptions of them.
Yeah.
Issachar, the Mexicans, was like a donkey. It was one of the symbols in the Bible that and it was said it was a prophecy stating that he would work for cheap labor or something like that. They would, they would take these things that would, by happenstance, due to certain circumstances in the United States, basically, of people
Right.
working for cheap labor, but foreigners in general do stuff like that, though.
Yeah, I mean the Irish were known for being hard workers out here in this country, and
For
if you
cheap
go to
labor.
China and you look at the hard labor that Chinese people are put through or have
Right.
to go through because of conditions in their country, it's like these things can be attributed to other people, like these fake reasons for why we should
Right.
believe or why things match. It's like it's all circumstantial,
Right.
and
It's all circumstantial.
yeah, and it's exactly what that is circumstantial evidence that doesn't really provide a connection between the X and Y that they're trying to connect. It's like X doesn't mean Y because of this circumstantial evidence, pretty much. And when you look up what that even means, circumstantial evidence, let me just share that screen real quick because
Given the reason why they're here now, for
Mhm.
now,
Right,
they're working at those wages.
yeah,
But that's not
there's
forever.
right, yeah, like I was thinking about how it says um
For example, Mexicans, for example, they come down
that
here. I'm sorry. I
Mhm.
apologize. You breaking up a bit.
Yeah, no, you're good. What are you
Um,
saying?
they come to America, for example, to work for the American dollar, and they take that dollar and they send it back
What were
to
you saying?
Mexico. I'm sorry, sir. Do you hear me? Do you hear me?
Yeah, I could hear
Okay.
you.
For an example, they come to America and they would work for the American dollar and they would take that dollar down to Mexico and they would exchange it for a larger rate of money down in their homeland, things like that. That's one of the main reasons why they came up here,
So my bad. I'm trying to share the screen, but it probably has some audio it's trying to play behind it, so it's not really showing too good. But yeah, circumstantial evidence is just, because you're trying to connect something that by chance, or just because a situation is at a certain time the way that it is, they think like that's like the end all be all. But when you look at what circumstantial evidence is, it's like it's like a story or somebody saying something, and it's not really connecting things with hard evidence. It's
Right, with
just like,
hard evidence. Right,
yeah, it's
right.
not forensic evidence. It's not nothing
Solid
like that.
evidence.
Yeah. So
And it was one more prophecy they would come up with about the end times where Judah was going to team up with the the northern tribes, the tribes of the main three tribes of the house of Judah was going to team up with the northern tribes in a race war. You
wow,
remember that one?
yeah, they're delusional, man. This is just straight delusion.
That'll never happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Circumstantial evidence is evidence that relies on an interference to connect it to the conclusion of facts, such as fingerprints at the scene of a crime. Right. So like there could be fingerprints like at the scene of a crime, because people live in this scene of a crime. It could be a house, and whoever's lived there is going to have their fingerprints all over that damn place. So just because you have that, it doesn't mean that that person did a murder. It's like, the murder might have happened in that person's house, and there's going to be his fingerprints all over things in that house. That doesn't mean that the person did the murder. You have to connect it to the actual murder weapon, or you have to have a body and see what evidence you have there that you can use. Sometimes you can use like forensic or ballistic evidence, depending on what kind of weapon was used. So it's like all those things have to connect. You have to have one piece of evidence here that connects to this, and this has to be in a certain place where the murder happened. You can't just say, well, we got your fingerprints on a cup of water, and that cup of water just so happened to be the place where this murder happened. It's like that doesn't connect the person that was there, that lives there. You're gonna have his fingerprints all over that place. That doesn't connect the person to a murder that might have happened in their house. But yeah, there could be a break-in. It could have been a robber, a thief, a robbery gone wrong, or something like that, and things have to be looked better. So I mean, and this type of evidence that they use is just interpretations of things. When they say that Babylon is America, you can find similarities between a hierarchy, of course, but then you're going to find differences that you don't focus on, and that's what you have to look for, is actually what deconfirms or debunks what you're trying to say, not just find any type of evidence that's consistent, because things can be consistent, but it doesn't mean that they are necessarily because of one to the other. So when you talk about a tribe of Benjamin being the Jamaicans today, the tribe of Benjamin, the so-called Jamaicans, and then your excuse is Genesis 49, Benjamin shall raven as a wolf, and that makes no sense when you try to say that has something to do with reggae music or whatever. Like they used to bring up like reggae music to try to describe that right there, and say that they like to say like a wolf likes to howl.
if anybody that's raving like a wolf,
that's
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Not even what the scripture's talking about there when it says.
You're breaking up a bit.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with like, you know, like how does something like that? Can you hear me?
You were breaking up a bit. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
like,
sir.
nah, you're good. I'm just saying, like, what is Benjamin shall raven as a wolf? You know, this is the interpretation being used to say that the West Indians are the tribe of Benjamin today, and that just doesn't make sense to me. It never did.
Well,
What's up, Benjamin? Jim Green, I see you in the comment section. Yeah,
when they say Benjamin shall raven like a wolf, if anybody's raven right now like a wolf, and you wanted to consider the 12 tribes of Israel, you could say that the African Americans are doing that now.
right.
I mean, but Benjamin is always like, the Jamaicans have always been sort of a well-behaved. I don't want to put them down like that. You know, I want to be careful too. What I'm saying,
Yeah,
more, more compliable.
right.
With if
And
you compare it to
if
black
you say
people,
you're
not
going
putting them
to,
both. I'm
if it
sorry,
says
sir.
you're going to raven as a wolf, then it means, as you can read here, it says to be ferociously hungry, greedy, and predatory.
Right,
Predatory.
right.
Yeah. So how does this have anything to do with Jamaicans? Jamaicans are smoking weed, chilling right now and shit. Like they very laid back people.
Yeah, if anybody's acting like that, you would say that would be. I don't want to talk about my folks,
Yeah.
but you would say that about FBBA right now. If that's one of the terms they get called now. You
What's
know,
that foundational Black American?
right, right.
Yeah. I mean, statistically,
They're
I
brave.
be,
They're ravenous. You know, right
I be
now.
calling I be calling this stuff out all the time. And I'm like, people don't really notice what's going on in the young Black community right now. Or if they do, they don't want to call it out, and they look everything. You know, they want to focus on everything else as a problem, and we could talk about that. You know, but there's definitely some voices that are out there trying to speak out against it that I listen to that usually come from a more religious standpoint, and you know, Hebrew Israelites will do that. IUIC will try to
Yeah,
call that out.
yeah.
I've seen them do that. Then I see, you know, people like Christians come out and speak against that too. So
But
both way.
what these people don't understand, not to cut you off. I'm sorry about that. But
No, you're good.
what these people don't get is when you speak about these things like oppression and anger and stuff like that,
Yeah,
that is meant to be released. Those feelings are not meant to be cooped up inside. You understand what I'm saying? You're supposed
yeah,
to hit a punching bag. You find a punching bag and you smack it. You see what I'm saying? You're not supposed to keep that in you.
yeah. Right, right.
So they don't understand that
Yeah. But I want to go over some of the things that were said on that live stream
I'm
because
sorry.
it's all good. It's a lot of common rhetoric that you're gonna hear, man, that they constantly talk about. But I'm gonna put the volume up here and I'm gonna mute myself so we can hear this just a little bit. This is me
Mhm.
talking
How
to
y'all doing?
these IUIC
What is
Hebrew Israelites pretty much.
Mhm.
About a month ago, I crashed their clubhouse, their little clubhouse
so the
thing.
Hebrew Israelites teach something false, pretty much.
I don't know what the Hebrew Israelites teach. I know what the Israelites teach.
Well, wasn't that the title?
No,
No. Okay. So the Israelites, which would be you guys, right?
So yeah,
Okay.
they didn't even want to really answer that question. You know, I tried to say, you know, the Hebrew Israelites, assuming that they
Mhm.
would call themselves that. I guess they don't like to be called the Hebrew Israelites now. And he wanted to correct, say, "Oh, I don't know what the Hebrew Israelites teach, but I know what the Israelites teach." So I thought that was funny right there, like just that little correction that's irrelevant. What they're trying to make a distinction from who? From, I mean, he said it right away. I guess he said, there's Hebrew Israelites that like to sleep with underage girls, and they didn't want to affiliate with that pretty much. So
We
I
ain't the
got
same.
you.
We believe in one wife. You understand? So you got some that believe they can have sex with children. We don't believe that.
No, I know.
Okay.
I know that you guys believe that the 10 tribes made it to like Arceus America, pretty much.
No, we don't. We just read that there. We don't care how anybody wants to break that down. That
you see how they try to get away from that, and I was trying to get away from all that other stuff they were trying to talk. These guys are masters at diverting the conversation somewhere else. So I got right to it because I knew that they knew that I wanted to talk about 2nd Ezra chapter 13, verses 40 to 47. That is the story of the 10 tribes, the non-canonized story of the 10 tribes lost, the 10 tribes of Israel being conquered from the northern part of Israel by Assyria at around 722 BC, taken over the rivers. That would be the Euphrates. That's what the waters that tell you they were taken over in verse 40, 41. Then when you get to verse about 42, it says something like, let me just pull it up because this is something I like to go through a lot. This is, I think, one of their Achilles heels, where they try to bring in the Hispanics into this whole family that's supposed to be a black, like this is supposed to be like a black movement. This is always a pro-black, all black movement when you go back to the beginning of these groups. And then later on, this particular ISUPK, which Nathaniel came out of and used some of the teachings and threw in the Hispanics, all of that, all these teachings come from 1 West 125th Street with the Israeli School of Universal Practical Knowledge. I know you have your history in that place. Somehow, I mean, I guess through GMS, you're connected through there. Because people in GMS, they came straight out of the House of David, and they were part of the ISUPK before some of them joined the House of David. I know Tahar and Nathaniel left ISUPK with Masha in 1994 when there was a big split. And when they created the House of David, you had Masha, you had Tahar, you had Nathaniel, and you had a bunch of other names that I can't, think of right now that other people probably know. And I believe Asaph, who's talking right here, who said he didn't want to go into none of that because he knows that the way that they misinterpret these scriptures is problematic, man. The way that they misinterpret 2nd Ezra chapter 13, they know that it's a problem. So they know that I know how to go over it. I know exactly where they try to like quickly, say something and disregard what they just read pretty much. Like you can read right through this and slow it down. They don't want you to slow it down. They want you to just listen real quick, and they'll tell you the little story real fast. So you can't really get exactly every little piece of the story. But when you actually analyze the words of these scriptures, it's talking about them going over the Euphrates River and the Lord stopping a stream, which is the river. But yeah, he knows that. He don't want to go over this at all. So he's like, we already went over that.
Damn.
He said, that's crazy. We were not there. We did the best. Let's hold on. Let me see. Can y'all hear it? No, my bad. You couldn't hear it. He said, we weren't there for this history. We did the best with the knowledge that we have. I don't know if you caught that, but let me bring it back.
Tribes made it to like our rest of America, pretty much.
No, we don't. We just read that there. We don't care how anybody wants to break that down. That history, we were not there. We did the best with the research that we have, and that's what we show to people. Whether they accept it or not, we don't care.
So this is Asaph of IUIC.
You believe there's going to be a judgment?
He's already setting it up as they did the best with the knowledge that they had at the time, which suggests that they got something wrong. He doesn't want to go into the 10 tribes breakdown. I wonder why.
Yeah, he doesn't want to go into Second Ezra chapter 13, verse 40. But I'm gonna pull that up. But yeah, you know, this is just a doctrine that I don't know how it's still a thing.
I don't know how it's still a thing either because it's 2025. Like that doesn't work. That whole way of looking at things doesn't work because that's really from a 1980s perspective on where Hispanics were back then.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Shit, yeah.
It's not really from a modern interpretation of where Hispanics are now in the United States. I mean, okay, you know, some of those people had a rough time as under Trump, but at the same time, those were illegals.
They're having a rough time under the cartels in their own community.
Right, exactly.
You know, they were having a hard time when they had to, you know, fight off the people that wanted to sacrifice them to the sun god. You know, like this is why I love the movie Apocalypto, because it shows
Excellent film, excellent movie. Yeah,
and it shows like all the issues like that was going on before the Spanish even got here. You know, the fact that there was already all types of internal fighting, and like I was saying earlier, these are hundreds, thousands of different tribes that have minor differences or major differences in their cultural beliefs, and some of them weren't so aggressive, some of them weren't cannibals, and some of them weren't sacrificing their children to the sun god, or sacrificing their own people to appease the sun god at high noon. They would do this at the tops of the pyramids, and you know, there's all of that happening, and then you have on the other side of the world in West Africa, who they claim the Israelites, where they claim the Israelites were at, Judah.
right.
They had all types of things going on in their world too, that this is like stuff that predates you know, like things that predate 720 BC. It was already all types of crazy issues, and there was already a history of Native Americans in the Americas. The pyramids alone are dated to 1000 BC, the beginning of the construction of the pyramids in Mexico and in Tulum, in these places all throughout Central America that came out of Mesoamerican culture, has already predated any Hebrew Israelite supposed voyage, you know, across the Atlantic or Pacific Ocean. Because, you know, when you read Second Ezra chapter 13, verse 40 through 47, it doesn't talk about any voyage through ships. It's all talking about pretty much going through a country, which represents on foot. If you're going through a country, you're going through a region, which is a piece of land. You're not going to be on ships. You know, if you're going on the Euphrates and down the Euphrates, you're going to go across many different countries and then hit the open seas, and you're no longer going to be going through any country once you hit the open seas before you get to the Americas, if that even happened, which we go through history. This is actually not even talking about them taking any voyage on a long, you know, a trip on boats or ships to the Americas. It's all talking about them going into the Euphrates River and then going across the Euphrates and coming out on the other side on land, just like they did during the time of the Red Sea, where the Lord stopped the stream, or he stopped the passage of the river, or the passage of the water from going in, and made it easier for them to get across. That's actually what the word Euphrates means. The word Euphrates means easy or good to cross over. So when we read 2nd Ezra chapter 13, verse 43, it says, and they entered into Euphrates by the narrow passages of the river. For the Most High showed signs to them and held still the flood till they were passed over. So you see that, how it says until they were passed over. What did they pass over? They passed over the Euphrates River, you know? So you can look at, you know, some of the Euphrates River, some of the photos of it right here. It goes all the way down through modern day Iraq and the Jordan, or the country Jordan. It kind of borders, goes around it, and then it takes you down to Kuwait into the Persian Sea. When you look at it, what they call the Persian Gulf. This would be it right here, what they're talking about in the Arabian Gulf. And then now you would have to get around Dubai and the United Emirates, or what that's called today. And if you look at it, now you're not going through any countries at this point once you get over here. If you can see that. This is Pakistan, India, and the Arabian Sea would be what they had to go into with all these ships of 10 tribes. Then they never tell you which way they went, you know, to get all the way to the Americas. They never really, you know, they don't give you a good understanding of any of that. You just have to kind of believe and take them at their word. And when it comes to Hebrew Israelites, you can't take them at their word. You have to be very careful what they're teaching you, because you
have to ask them all kind of questions.
Yeah, because they're usually just repeating something that they heard from somebody else,
and they don't even believe that themselves.
Yeah, they don't like to be asked questions, though. That's another thing. They
have doubts.
Yeah.
They seriously got doubts.
Yeah, when you look at the actual etymology for the word Euphrates, though, and it all goes with 2nd Ezra chapter 13, when it talks about till they were passed over, and they entered into the Euphrates. All of that it's a reason that pass over. He stopped it says he stopped, the Most High showed them signs and held still the flood till they were passed over. You know, so that was the sign, supposedly. You know, then this is a story that we have to just kind of just act as if it is true. Let's say it did happen. Then this would be what it's talking about, assuming that it's true, which is another problem. We have to assume that this is true. We don't know if any of this even really did happen, which is another thing that's problematic that I don't even get into. You know, I don't even ever have the opportunity to get into with these Hebrew Israelites, because they can't even break down or interpret and understand the scriptures for what it says at face value. They always have to turn it into something else, and then you have to debate that instead of debating the veracity of the actual scripture to see if there's any truth to this story, which there isn't. But if it was any truth to it, it would be saying that, I mean, there might be some truth to it, but there's no way to actually prove that the Lord stopped the river and they crossed over the Euphrates. It's just what the story's saying, but the Hebrew Israelites don't even admit that that's what it's saying. IUIC, ICDJC will try to tell you that this is talking about the Atlantic Ocean or the Pacific Ocean, or them, crossing over many oceans to get to the Americas, when it's actually just talking about them crossing over or passing over the Euphrates. And the Euphrates River, this is what it says. This is on etymology.com or etymonline.com. It says Euphrates, Mesopotamian river, arising in Armenia and flowing to the Persian Gulf. It's Old English from the word Euphrati, from the Greek Euphrates, from Old Persian Ufratu, perhaps Avestan Hyperthua or Euperthua. Yeah, right. Euperthua, which means good to cross over, from hu, which means good, peratu, which means ford, from the pi root per, which means to lead or pass over. But Kent says probably a popular etymologizing in OP of a local Iranian name, or Old Persian, Akkadian, Puratu, related to Euphratian. So this is from an old word that even could go back to the Akkadian, is what some people or some scholars are saying. But it essentially means good to cross over. And when you look at the, Euphrates, per comes from the word to lead or pass over, and the word Euphrates or Euphrates, where the word comes from, or Puratu, which is the Akkadian term of passing over or crossing over, getting over something. This is like reading the Bible. It takes a lot of studying, and you have to go into words sometimes to understand what we're actually reading, especially when we're reading things that have been translated from different languages. Wouldn't it be best to get the actual original translation,
Greek,
So,
right?
yeah. So, yeah, man, I'm gonna share the rest of this video. Let me see. What's good, y'all? I see y'all in the comment section. Thomas Carlisle, be the good or be the dude. Yeah, man, I want to hear.
I think another issue. I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Another issue I have is when you talk about Ham, Shem, and Japheth, and also the tribe of Judah, and all those things.
Yeah.
It's kind of complicated, but isn't it true that the Bantu tribe makes their first appearance in historical evidence around, what was that, 5,000 years before the time of Christ, so right?
Yeah, the Bantu people are thousands of years before even the Israelites existed.
Right, because I'm thinking that's even before the story of Noah was ever even made.
Yeah, probably. They go back to like 4,000 BC. So
At least 5,000, right?
probably, yeah. I'm trying to think, because I know that language is ancient. The Bantu language is connected to a lot of the language groups in West Africa,
Right.
from Nigerians to people in Togo, Benin.
Because most of the diaspora of Africa, of the sub-Saharan Africans are Bantu. They're descendants of Bantus. Most of them. I'm sorry, sir.
No, I agree. I know that I haven't read much about the Bantu people. Maybe we'll get into that
Right.
in a little bit here, because that's definitely more related to the other people, the other tribes that they call the Black tribes.
Mm-hmm.
They have a connection to that, while the Native Americans have a connection that they can trace back tens, like almost 10,000, over 10,000 years.
Over
to,
10,000 years.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. So
You're talking about the Bering Strait crossing.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and the connection to the Clovis culture and the Siberian
Right.
ancestors that definitely flooded a good amount of the coast, the Pacific coast, going all the way down to Mexico and Guatemala and even South America. Eventually they got to, which took more time, but
By walking.
yeah, well, not even just walking.
I'm
There's
sorry.
no, yeah, there's more than that. Like that's the thing. It's like history is so complicated and it's not so easily, defined. There were migrations definitely by foot, but then they're starting to realize that there were migrations down the coast, that people started populating more, like lands that you would think would get populated, later on as you start traveling down. Then later on, this area got populated, but it didn't really happen like that. It was like they were going down the coast, taking probably canoes. They knew they were known for like using canoes, and they weren't really known for making like big vessels that can carry a lot of people from
Right.
one place to another. So there's evidence down in Chile, South America, where it dates back later. It predates some of these other locations in Montana, where they found some old tools and old remains of a child that was buried. There was like a whole burial, and a lot of this location, which I believe is called Clovis, the area is called Clovis, Montana. That's where they get the Clovis culture from, and all that. That's where they get the name from, because they found a lot of the tools, the hunting tools, what they call the Clovis spears that they used to use to hunt the woolly mammoths and different animals that they were eating at that time. They can look into see, they can tell what they were eating, they can tell what their diet was, how they cook their foods, what tools they use to hunt their foods, the agriculture they have. And then when you find bodies and bones and all of that, that's even better now, because now you can sequence the DNA and see how closely they connect to people today or people of other places. And that's how they're able to trace that these people's DNA is connected to Siberians. They know that for a fact. So when IUIC talked about the lost tribes of Israel, even if, let's say, there were Israelites that made it to the Americas, that doesn't mean that all Native Americans are Israelites. It just means that we need to study this particular group for whatever reason. They're different from the context that we have, or like the norm. What we understand is the archaeological evidence that adds all this context, that now if you start to say that there were Israelites out here in the Americas, that's completely out of context from what we already know about archaeology and history. So all of that has to be spoken about. These guys don't want to give any of this information any time or any thought, because it completely debunks what they say.
Right.
So to use claims and stories of anecdotal evidence given by European settlers as some type of evidence of the lost tribes of Israel being in America is not a good way to come to a conclusion about ancestry, especially when we have other types of information that's way better and way more accurate than somebody telling a story. It's crazy. Scientific evidence versus anecdotal evidence is basically what they're saying, that anecdotal evidence is somehow better.
No,
But
no,
yeah,
no,
but
because I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, because they don't have concrete proof of any of these claims.
Right. They
No.
claim they have stories, and they were able to communicate with Native Americans that said that they're from the lost tribes of Israel. And that's just what we have. It's a story. When we
Hitler.
analyze the alphabet or
Yo, Hitler. You remember the story about Hitler and what he said about the tribe of Judah?
no, what's that?
Remember, they was saying that Hitler knew that black people were part of the tribe of Judah.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's one of their crazy stories for sure. Yeah. See,
Oh shit!
let me play this.
Sorry about that, Chief.
See, you see how they have to specifically like
Oh, I
target
couldn't
these
hear it.
people. Oh no, you couldn't hear it?
No, I couldn't hear it. I'm sorry, Chief.
Oh damn. Okay, well, I'm trying to play this right here, and it's saying that all they care about is bringing blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to repentance, pretty much, is what ASAP is saying. But yeah, let me play it again.
I hope I can hear it. I can't hear it. Sorry, Chief. I can't hear it. Maybe the audience can hear it. Mm. No, I can't hear it. Are you still there? Oh,
I'm here. I'm playing the video. I don't know. I could hear it fine.
oh I'm sorry, sir. As I couldn't hear it. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Apologize.
Yeah, I think everybody could hear it. I just wanted to make sure. But all right, let me mute. Maybe if I mute you, it'll play. It's not letting me mute. All right, let's see. That's crazy that they say it has nothing to do with the salvation. Like going into Second Ezra chapter 13, verse 40. How does that not have nothing to do with their salvation? When
Mhm.
we can watch videos of them using these scriptures to target Mexicans and Hispanics as if they're part of the 12 tribes of Israel, you know? So when I want to go into these things, now all of a sudden it's a problem. But when they want to teach it in the street, they can do so and nobody could ask any questions. That's the problem, is that nobody ever asked them any questions on these things. So what he's just said was nobody ever has a problem with these things. It's just you. Like, that's not true. If you come out and really say this to somebody that has studied anything dealing with Mesoamericans, Paleo Indians, and their connection to Siberians, the Siberian ancestry that you find when you study all the remains of the bodies of the ancient Paleo Indians, everything that was found, that was sequenced, all connected to East Asians. And then when we do DNA testing today, and we find some of the indigenous people, we get the DNA test of some of the most indigenous people out here, you can see that it has a connection to the same thing that was sequenced decades ago, that confirmed to us what a lot of people already believed, that Native Americans migrated from East Asia, some 10,000, even 20,000 years ago, they'll say. When we read the scriptures, though, which they refuse to do, I mean, I had them finally read a verse, but they didn't respond to it when it says that that the Lord, in verse 47, it pretty much says, the highest shall stay the springs of the stream again, that they may go through. So that stream is talking about a river. That river is talking about the river Euphrates, and the land that they called Arsareth. It can't be talking about America if the only thing that the 10 tribes crossed was the river Euphrates. That's exactly what they passed over, so when these things get questioned, now all of a sudden you see the aggression. If you guys can hear Asaph, how aggressive he is, just because I'm questioning them on this 10 tribe stuff, and he's like, we see the videos that you making out there. So they know that they can't respond to it. There's a bunch of scriptures of them saying that they went to the country when the scripture says through the country, and you constantly see them just changing the word through to to, without any hesitation and without nobody ever pushing back on them. They just say whatever the hell they want. So finally, when somebody pushes back on them, they have a problem responding. And if you're gonna hear in the rest of the video, they're gonna eventually just kick me out. So let me continue to share it. I'm gonna play the video now. Let me see. You can hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
All right. All right. Let me see here. Let me see.
I can hear you perfect.
All right. I'm just trying to make sure.
Without nobody ever pushing back on them, they just say whatever
Is it even sharing? Let me see. Okay. Right here. Boom. So, yeah, this is Asaph. All right. Let's go back. Let's go back. Boom. All right. This is Asaph trying to stop me from asking a basic question. You're not hearing?
I'm sorry, sir.
You not hear it?
I didn't hear anything. I'm sorry.
Why it's not playing?
Okay, there's the video right there. Maybe they can hear it. I don't know if I can hear it. Maybe I have to switch around.
Yeah, I don't know if it's an issue with me sharing the screen. There's an issue with the sound. I think this happened last time. I don't know. I thought it was just because the Google Chrome or the Safari, but let me see if I can play it from my side, if I can hear anything. Let me see. I'm trying to play it in the live stream.
I'm probably using a different browser, so that could be a reason why that's happening. Let me go on mute. I'm sorry.
Move you and then see if maybe I could share my screen without you being on, if that would work. And then you could come back on. All right, I'll bring you back. All right, let me see.
I didn't hear anything. Sorry.
Yeah, now I'm having issues with sharing the screen with the volume. That doesn't make any sense. I don't get that. If I go into Let me see. Recording camera. Yeah, my bad, y'all. I gotta make sure that not only the camera is showing, but that the sound is playing too. MacBook, default. Yes, layouts. See, my bad, y'all. Technical difficulties. But I mean, it's all good. We've been talking about this anyways, and going over IUIC and their different doctrines. But the conversation, you could actually just go to my video. I should have played it right from my TV, but sometimes I guess the audio don't go through that good. I guess that's what's happening now, but let me see if I can run a few tests, try to fix it, and then we go from there. I believe this happened last time, but yeah. Full screen layout. Sun. Yeah. Let me send a link back if you need to come back. Let me see. Boom. All right. You're back on.
Hey, boss, what's up?
Yeah, man. Just trying to see if I could work out this little issue here, but it seems like there's an issue with the volume, it looks like. So I don't know if I could just present or share my screen like I always do, but I'll figure that out for the next live stream. For right now, though, definitely just to talk about what we've been talking about. It's the ICGJC, the IUIC, GMS. We're familiar with all these different Hebrew Israelite groups. I like to talk about this on a regular basis, and I think I understand where they go wrong at. It's
But I
that's all I
actually
like.
heard. I actually heard the conversation you and him had.
Okay, there you go. Perfect.
Back in the past. So a few days
Right.
ago or so, like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it
Because I
was
posted it maybe last week.
okay, yeah, because it was kind of weird how he didn't want to get into it. He didn't want to. He brought it up. I mean, did they teach about it? But they don't really want to get that deep with it, in depth.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like this is what you guys teach. But they don't want to go into it when somebody questions them because I think they realize, that this guy has done his research and they're probably not so well prepared on that subject because they've been probably studying all different types of things and they've gone away from all this identity and the original school, and what they used to mostly push is mostly identity stuff. These guys are trying to talk about like what Christians talk about, salvation and the love of God and your brothers and not being evil and things like that, which is all good, but it's just these lies that come with it when you start to add that you have to be an Israelite in order to even get any of these benefits. So
Right.
yeah, it's just crazy.
because no, it's very important that we talk about when they mention about the tribe of Judah or the tribe of Issachar. It's very important to narrow down these identities. You know,
Yeah.
and one of the
No,
identities,
if this is what we're going to be talking about, yeah.
you know, one of those identities when you talk about Black people or African Americans, they are descendants of Bantus. And when you think about the Bantu peoples date back some 5,000 years ago or more. Okay.
Right.
Both of those groups that they mentioned that are part of the 12 tribes date back 10,000 years before the book was ever even written or more. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they have a long history in Central Africa, in the
Yeah.
Congo,
And the Barren
and yeah,
Straits.
are there. They know where these people went. They can trace back, even through languages and how it grows in certain areas. This is not, such a mystery where, it's like, oh, they ain't telling you that these are the real lost tribes. It's like, come on, man. There's like certain contact that was made maybe with some Jews, and the religion spread in some of these areas, some of these countries in the continent of Africa. Obviously, you had so much trade, and you had so much moving back and forth over the centuries, man. From starting back when Christianity was even a thing, that even before that, before Christianity was a thing, you had a lot of movement. So the religion spread. People are going to assimilate with the people around their area. So if there were Israelites that made it down that way, their DNA would be very minimal today because of the surrounding population being all types of other
Sub-Saharan.
people.
Right.
Yeah, it's just that's just how it works. But
Plus that region of the land, I guess when you consider that region, that was like a region that was famous for trade anyway, right? The Middle East.
yeah, the Middle East going into Egypt,
Right.
Israel is right there. It connects pretty much. Gaza connects, that
With
northern
Europe.
border to Asia Minor.
Yeah, to Europe.
Yeah, exactly. To even to Europe. Mm-hmm.
But when you consider who are the Israelites, I would say some of the people, some people gonna get pissed off when I mention this, who the Israelites are. Who I think what the potential of the Israelites are now. I think some of them are from the Eastern Europe, Turkey, places like that. I'm sorry, Chief.
Right.
Turkey, parts of Russia.
He was good. I'm gonna play this video and see if the sound comes up now. Yeah. I'm trying to share the screen. Give it a minute. This thing is extra slow right now. That's the only thing I hate. StreamYard makes you want to get. They make you want to get like the whole damn package to where you pay like $600 for the whole year
Mm.
just to get good service. Otherwise, from this video,
book a last-minute weekly stay. Book now.
I'm hearing a little something now. Just a little bit. Let's see what happens.
I thought it was just because the Google Chrome or the Safari.
On the scriptures.
We don't care
let's see
about
if
that,
it's working
sir.
now.
We don't care.
Otherwise,
It has nothing to do with something.
Yeah, I
No, I don't.
yeah,
Yeah, I think it's working. Let's play it right there.
Heard you.
Then why can't you answer?
No, I'm not
scripture?
telling you can't talk. You could talk. Go ahead, you could talk. I'm not stopping you. I'm just preparing. So, listen, I'm preparing you so you don't waste your time.
Right.
That's
And-
all.
These guys won't let me talk, man. You can hear it. Yeah. Okay. So it looks like it's working now. Finally.
Okay.
Sorry about that, y'all.
Yeah,
But-
I hear it
but
clearly now.
Yeah, this guy is Asaph. He's not even let me get started. I'm just trying to get started on the conversation, and he's already cutting me off, and he has to tell me, listen, I'm preparing you. He's basically, he knows that these cats are not going to even entertain the question, and they're just going to go around it and dance around it and you know, try to avoid having to ever answer any questions. That's what they do. That's how they teach them to basically try to control the conversation, and you know, they were able to do that easily because this is their clubhouse. So let me see now. I'll play it again.
So in Second Ezra's
Go ahead.
my question's in Second Ezra chapter 13, verse 45.
Is this dude retarded?
Hey, don't interrupt him because then he's gonna get fired. Know what he does. He waited all the time to bring this up. I've watched him do it with other groups. I've watched him do it in other rooms. He cannot sleep until he gets this out. So let him get it
They
out.
can't even get to the question without insulting and trying to attribute a motive to you. They always think that they know the reason. This is the reason why you're even asking this question. Like, answer the goddamn question, man. They always try to make it seem like they have more knowledge than they actually do, and it's just their, you know, damn crazy religious belief of always being suspicious of every little thing anybody wants to bring up. It's just like, goddamn, answer a question and let's read the scripture, and then we can finally get to the topic without all this, you know, yapping and trying to prepare people before they hear what I have to say, because they know stuff like this shakes people's beliefs. So whenever I come on, it's like, oh, you got to prepare. This is San Miguel.
So Second Ezra chapter 13, verse 45. You guys don't believe in that scripture?
I didn't say we don't believe it. With the limited information we have in the research, that's what we came up with. If you have something different, we're going to give you a chance to present it in the room. You go, sir. You have the floor.
I want to talk about Second Ezra chapter 13, verse 40.
3 times you could bring it up. 3 times. I don't know how.
Share the screen. This is incredible. I hate doing it. Like, that was the beginning of it. All these ads keep coming up and slowing everything down. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Yes, I hear you perfectly.
Can you? Okay, let me see. There we go. Okay.
It's just that it was kind of the video was not in sync, but I could hear it perfectly.
Yeah, it's so many things wrong with my StreamYard.
Okay.
Yeah, it's StreamYard is very basic. That if you're using the free app, it's not really good for sharing your screen, and that's why sometimes you see me just use a video that's already out, and I'll play it from the TV, and
Mhm.
probably about to just do that. Probably going to be the best way, but yeah, I mean, ICGJC, IUIC, I'm familiar with both. Having this conversation with IUIC just reminds me of how delusional these people are. And yeah, it reminds me of being in the ICGJC when anytime somebody had something different to say, it becomes a roast session where all they're going to try to do is just make fun of you or insult your intelligence.
I don't know why they called you retarded. I don't understand that.
Right.
Wasn't
Yeah.
you just trying to pull out a scripture or something?
I mean, I'm trying to have them read Second Ezra chapter 13, verse 45, because they have readers that usually would do that. And then they start jumping in telling me, well, this and this and that and this and that. And I'm like, can we just talk about the scripture, man? Like, Jesus Christ. And then they finally get to read it. If you watch the rest of the video, they finally do get to read at least verse 46 and 47, when it tells you what we were reading already with Second Ezra's and the Apocrypha. This is all the Bible. These are religious groups that are using religious scriptures that aren't even verified, not even canonized. Some of these scriptures nobody even really uses to prove anything, because the book of Second Ezra was obviously written way after Ezra even existed. It was probably written in like 200 BC. By that time, Ezra was already, long gone, for 200, 300 years now. So there were other people continuing his work or books in the name of Ezra, as if Ezra spoke to an angel and
Mhm.
trying to attribute these scriptures to him as the author. And we can't prove that, but we have to just assume these things. So even if we do assume it, which we know that's problematic to begin with, so all I'm doing is just playing their game. When all I have to do is just question, like, how do we know this was even an actual true story? And they try to say that, well, we see the evidence of it today. Well, if we see the evidence of it today, then how come when they do any DNA studies of Native Americans, it never goes back to the Middle East, and it always goes back to Eastern Asia every time? Even when you study their teeth, the teeth of the Native Americans is very closely related to Asians, their eyelids, their facial structure. And
Mhm.
there were so many years removed from the ancient Siberians to modern day Native Americans that there have been some biological or genetic changes. And of course, the language is going to be completely different if we're talking about thousands of years removed. So it's not going to be so easily connected, but genetics can connect, thousands of years. You can see it. You can actually make a good connection when you look at genetics. It's a stronger piece of evidence than just a story that's told. And then when we have cultural similarities, from, like, we were just mentioning, the tools that they use to hunt, we have to talk about all those things. Like, that's important when it comes to who the Native Americans are. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I want to pull up one thing, William Penn, but yeah, you want to say something?
No, you on point, bro.
Yeah.
You mentioned a lot of good points. I thought that was interesting that Deacon didn't want to speak on about, what was about his belief on the Northern Kingdom to you,
They just want to preach repentance now. and forget
Mhm.
about the fact that they're an identity cult that preaches salvation to people because of a certain identity group or whatever. They want to avoid all of that now,
Mm.
as if it's unimportant, but it's a big part of their belief.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, those groups go back, you know, so it should be very important to mention where they come from, basically.
This was one of the people that were this was a settler in Pennsylvania by the name of William Penn. Let's see here. If you Google William Penn Israelites, you come across an AI overview that gives you just a little brief history of the connection with William Penn and any mention of Hebrew Israelites or anything of that nature. You have that Penn's Holy Experiment of Pennsylvania, right here, was founded on religious tolerance, making it a haven for various groups, including Jews. So he actually, because of William Penn, a lot of Jews, European Jews, migrated to Pennsylvania because he made it like this holy place where Jews were invited, and he was trying to connect. He was trying to have God's 12 tribes of Israel come back together. He thought this was like an important thing. So he was pretty much inviting Jews to come move. See, this is a part that they won't tell you, that William Penn also believed that European Jews were real Jews. So he believed that Native Americans were the lost tribes, but
Right.
he also believed that the European Jews were the real Jews. So why don't we ever talk about that? If any of his beliefs mattered, why are we ignoring the fact that he believed that European Jews were the original Jews and that these Native Americans are just some lost tribes? And he was trying to have a reconnection, a religious experiment in the land of Pennsylvania. And he's like a Quaker that founded Pennsylvania, pretty much. He's one of the original settlers of Pennsylvania, rather. So if you read here, it says, the idea that Native Americans were the descendants of the lost tribes of Israel was a popular theory at the time. And Penn's Quaker followers, and even Penn himself, are sometimes associated with this idea.
Mm.
And the link that, let me see, that comes up here. Let me see if I could find that. This is a WordPress article. I don't know what this is. I want to get a good source because sometimes a Hebrew Israelite will write whatever using William Penn's name, on a Pinterest blog. And then people would think because it comes up on the search, they think like this is some type of relevant damn piece of information, and it's just a blog. AncientJewReview.com. Let me see. Yeah, we're talking about colonial Pennsylvania, 1700s. UShistory.org probably doesn't look like it mentions the Israelites there, but a lot of Jews did come to the Americas around this time, and that's what's not spoken about by the Hebrew Israelites. That when he says that, it was like there's like a mention of him saying there's so many Jews in Pennsylvania, it's like a Jewish town or something like that. And I forget what part of Pennsylvania. And they use that and try to make it seem like he's saying like, these are Native Americans are the real Jews, even though he did hold to that belief. but he was also referring to the European Jews that migrated and moved to Pennsylvania at that point.
Damn.
Yeah, so William Penn is not a good source for trying to identify who the lost tribes of Israel or the real Israelites are, because some people tell you that real historians will tell you they're not lost. We know where they went. We know what happened to them. It's just these are stories by these are people that like to believe in these outrageous stories that seem amazing. And you know, I found the lost tribes of Israel, you know, like that's an amazing story that you want to tell people and people are going to want to listen to you now. Let me see here.
I feel you, man.
Yeah. I want to see if there's an actual good source that we can use here. Return. Yeah, when you read 2 Kings chapter 17, we know that the Israelites left Assyria or left Samaria and made their way over to Assyria. They were conquered. And so if we read this real quick in 2 Kings 17, just a quick overview of what it says. Shalmaneser V conquers the northern kingdom of Israel after a 3-year siege of the capital Samaria. Right, so we know that. Then it says, as a result, the Israelites are deported to various parts of the Assyrian Empire and conquered territory, and the conquered territory is repopulated with people from the Assyrian-controlled regions, a policy known as Assyrian resettlement. This event marks the end of the kingdom of Israel and is described as a punishment for the Israelites' disobedience. So the Israelites went to Assyria. This is a historic fact. Now, what happened after they got to Assyria? Did the Israelites go anywhere else? That's what is not really written in the scriptures, but you can look at history and see that they always remained in the area, and it wasn't like they just completely disappeared from the area. There's evidence of Israelites. Let me see. If we look up, where did the 10 lost tribes go after Assyria? This is the question that Hebrew Israelites are pretty much asking. And this is the answer that they don't want to acknowledge, but this is what they have to do: actual study, put their time into studying where the Israelites actually went, instead of following these stories by European settlers that just assume that Native Americans are Israelites, and they use all types of anecdotal and circumstantial evidence to try to conclude or come to that conclusion and confirm somehow that these Native Americans are lost tribes of Israel. That's not a way to do that. When you follow history, what it tells you is that right here, after the Assyrians conquered the northern kingdom of Israel in 722 BC, the 10 tribes were exiled to various parts of the Assyrian Empire, primarily to areas in and around modern-day Syria, Iraq, and Iran. Hold on. I hear a little back noise. And Iran. Many were deported and resettled in border regions to weaken their identity, and their ultimate fate became a subject of mystery and legend over time, with some people eventually being assimilated while others fled, and many groups around the world today claim a connection to these tribes. Right. So it's because there's such a mystery and so many legends around it. People start to say that, oh, they ended up all over here and over there. But what is the most rational conclusion is that they assimilated around other people and they became other people. That's just what would happen when you start to spread around the Middle East in these different areas, and you are no longer one big group of people. So if we read a little more. It says, the deportation to the Assyrian Empire. The Assyrians exiled the Israelites, settling them in locations described as Halah, Habor, the river Gozan, and the cities of the Medes. These areas are located in Upper Mesopotamia and the Median region, which are modern-day parts of Syria, Iraq, and Iran. So if they were to do DNA testing with some people in these areas, you could probably find a good chunk of Israelite or Canaanite, which is very similar DNA, in these people that are now considered Iranians or Iraqis or Syrians. I'm telling you, they're all scattered. So, but we know that some of them did go to Poland. We know these Jews do have a good chunk of DNA that goes back to Israelite DNA. They've done the testing. So if you want to say that the Israelites are Native Americans, it's like you have to actually have some type of DNA evidence, because this is how you prove something to be genetic. So, otherwise, all you have is these stories, and it's all, just part of people's beliefs that is connected to the mystery of where did the 10 tribes go. So people want to have an answer. They don't like to say I don't know, and that's part of the reason why you have all these claims all over the world. This is not just a Black Hebrew Israelite thing, but it's mostly heard amongst Black Hebrew Israelites today. You have the dispersal within the empire. Says some accounts suggest that exiles were taken north, south, and east. Some individuals likely fled the deportation south into Egypt, while others moved eastward along trade routes. That's what makes sense, that they would move among the trade routes eastward, even westward, if to go into Europe. You see that they did. The migrations went that way too. And it says, myth and legend. This is the bullshit now. The idea of the lost tribes. See, that whole idea of the lost tribes is become this mysterious thing that people feel the need to answer. So it says they emerged because the Assyrian exile broke up the kingdom, and many of the exiles never returned with the later Babylonian exiles. This led to centuries of speculation about their whereabouts, with theories suggesting they went to Ethiopia, India, China, and even further afield. Continuation of identity. While the Assyrian policy aimed to erase their identity, some groups assimilated into other populations, while others maintained their distinct identity and were eventually absorbed into the kingdom of Judah, the southern kingdom that was not exiled at this time. So this is immediately after the Assyrian Empire. You had some of them that returned to the land. So there's that too. So the idea that there's just 10 huge tribes, a major part of the population of the nation of Israel, that left the whole region and went to the Americas, is not archaeological, is not historical. And when we do the DNA evidence on that, it's not scientific. It's not genetic. Let me see what else we got though. Yeah, the second Kings chapter 17, verse 6. is a big scripture that they like to use also.
Mm-hmm.
But let me see if I can find that other scripture. I think it's First Chronicles 5:16 or 17.
Into the land where mankind has not dwelled or something like that, right? Is that
Yeah.
the one you're looking for?
No, that's Second Ezra chapter 13,
Okay.
verse 43, I think says
Mm-hmm.
that. Or 40. That it took them a year and a half to get through that country, and that never mankind dwelt. You know, all of that is not necessarily true. And then how big is that land that never mankind dwelt? Because it could just be a little portion of the land. But at the same time, it seems like that land is big enough to where they can walk through for a year and a half. But we don't know if they were doing circles in the land, like the Israelites did after they left Egypt, and so just walking around the desert in circles for a year and a half, because that's possible too. So if it's possible that you can walk through a land and do circles for a year and a half, it doesn't necessarily mean that the land has to be so big to where you can walk across from one end to the other, because it says they went through that country and it took a year and a half. Okay. You know, we don't know if these stories, how accurate they are. We don't know who's even telling Ezra this story. It's all very strange. You
Mm-hmm.
know, people just want to assume that this story is just 100% accurate because they find it in the Apocrypha.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming that an angel was the one that gave this information to a prophet. That's never questioned by Hebrew Israelites. They never want to question that part.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even want to question people like William Penn and Europeans that just state that the Israelites are the Native Americans just because it fits their belief.
Yeah. Anything that fits their faith,
Right.
that supports their arguments, they hold on to it.
Right.
And don't even challenge it.
Yep.
Basically, right. I'm sorry, sir.
No, you're good. I want you to talk.
Okay. Yeah. So they don't even challenge.
Yeah, I think when we read First Chronicles chapter 5 and 16, is that the one? I'm probably not getting the right one, but it should be the scripture that talks about how the tribes of Gad and Reuben. Yeah, it is First Chronicles 5 and 16. It says First Chronicles 5 and 16 states that the Gadites lived in Gilead, Bashan, and its towns, and the pasture lands of Sham, extending to their borders. The verse describes the territory inhabited by the Gadite tribe, by the tribe of Gad, and the surrounding verses detail their military strength and their role alongside the tribe of Reuben and the half tribe of Manasseh. Yeah, because this speaks about how these tribes were still in the land of Assyria during the time that they wrote the book of First Chronicles. So that would be hundreds of years after 720 BC. When did the 10 tribes make it to America? They never give you that answer either. I was asking that question to IUIC last time I was on there, and they went crazy and kicked me off back then too.
Mm-hmm.
Because I kept asking, because I assumed that they thought that the 10 tribes went to America in 720 BC. I didn't know that they thought that they stayed in Assyria for a little while and then later they came. That's why I started to ask him, so then what year? Because either way, if it's not in 720 BC, then you don't believe it happened before that. You're getting further away from the accurate answer of when people even inhabited the Americas. If you're going to say, oh no, it wasn't 720 BC, it was in an earlier date, 500 BC, it's like you're pushing the time even closer, even further away from what's the actual truth of how long people been in the Americas. So they didn't even, like that was a whole, I don't even know who that IUIC dude was at that time, because there's always different people that come on that Biblical Smoke clubhouse chat room. It's called Biblical Smoke. It usually has a few hundred people on there, and it's a bunch of just people that they're not being honest. They're not honestly asking questions. They're not doing honest debates. They have very biased information, and the people that they allow to speak up are very biased, and they're cool with them already. These are their members, their captains. There's probably like a few of them that are not so connected. There's somebody named Uzziah that I think used to be part of the IUIC, and they're still cool with, but he has like his own little ministry going on or something. So that's a whole nother story. But what's good, Jimmy Jordan? Yeah, man, that's typically what happens when you try to have a conversation with these people on their platform. They don't allow a good, reasonable conversation to go on. It's always them trying to dominate the conversation, and nothing real comes out. It just becomes typical environment of cult, like just shaming and guilting and making fun, and the power of the group, the number of the groups kind of like drown out the one person that wants to speak up, because that's what cults do. They never let the person that's dissenting or speaking something different really get their full word out. It always has to get cut off and corrected. They can't just let people talk. That's the problem with them. It's like they can't answer questions. When you ask them a question, they stay quiet. You saw that in the conversation. If you watch the IUIC conversation, you see they didn't want to answer questions. They wanted to, and then when it came time to talk about the evidence, they did something called gish galloping, which is just laying out a bunch of books and topics or sources, so-called sources of people that claim that the Hebrew Israelites are Native Americans, or Native Americans are Hebrew Israelites. And all of that is called to gish gallop or gish galloping. Gish gallop is a rhetorical strategy that involves overwhelming an opponent with a rapid fire barrage of numerous arguments, regardless of their validity, in order to exhaust them and make it appear as if they are winning the debate. The goal is to bury the opponent in a torrent of assertions, falsehoods, misrepresentations, and irrelevant points that they cannot possibly refute within the time limits. Yeah, like they're not going to give me enough time to refute every single so-called source that they brought up in that small amount of time that I even had to talk, where they kept constantly cutting me off and they kept muting me during the conversation. So I couldn't even finish my sentences once I started talking, not even knowing that by the end of my sentence, I'm muted the whole time, So this is the type of debate tactics that they have. And yeah, now it's like I can do that and say, well, what do you have to say about the Anzac One and all the genomes that was connected to Native Americans? What do you have to say about the Kennewick Man DNA that was found in Wyoming, and how they connected that to modern day Native Americans and Siberians? And what do you have to say about the Sunrise Child? And what about the shovel-shaped incisors that they're dental? They have dental evidence that connects Native Americans with Siberians and East Asians. How could they be Hebrew Israelites? What about the monolith eyelids? That's a common thing amongst East Indians. East Asians, or Asians, period. And then you find that amongst Native Americans too. Like I could come with a barrage of evidence. What about the University of Berkeley and the studies that they're doing on Mesoamericans and Paleo Indians? The Clovis culture, all the tools. I can just barrage them with a bunch of information and, then not give them time to refute everything, because you can't. You're not going to possibly be able to refute every single point there. So you have to do one point at a time, which is what I was trying to do with going to the scriptures, 2nd Ezra chapter 13. That's their evidence. If they want to go to these books of Lost Tribes and Promised Lands, or any Spanish travelers, William Penn, and his beliefs, like these are people's beliefs who they claim are the devil. The Europeans they claim are the devils, but now you want to use their word, just a story that they told, as evidence, and say at the same time, while saying this is the devil giving us this truth. Like, even the devil will say the truth. It's like, but you say the devil lies too, so how do you know that this time the devil isn't actually lying?
How about the Zondervan Bible Dictionary?
Right. Yeah. What about the Zondervan Bible Dictionary, man? Because I know you know.
What's that? When they were talking about Ham, and who Ham was the father of, but not the Negroes.
Right. They try to make it seem as if they're trying to say that the Negroes are Semitic, which that's not even what it says. It's just trying to say that the Negroes didn't come from Ham, and that could just be telling you that Negroes came from somebody else that's not Ham, Shem, or Japheth, which is
that's right.
I mean, if you really want to look at it, that's what I think.
Because there's more dark. There's other type of dark people besides African.
Yeah.
There's Indians. The Indians are dark skinned.
You have dark skinned people, that you have people that just a little brown skin, that some white people will consider them dark.
Right.
You had that some Europeans that were considered swarthy or dark.
Right.
And all they
Slavic
had
people.
little
Slavic. Yeah.
Armenians.
Right.
Italians, they considered Italians this way. This is very common. You have quotes from Benjamin Franklin calling Swedish people swarthy. So, I mean, if they weren't pure white, like from Wales or something, or whatever the hell they considered pure white, they considered you, kind of lesser. So they'll throw you in other categories, like they did the Irish in this country. Even in the 1800s, they were doing that to Italians and Irish and Jewish people. They didn't only redline black people. They were redlining Mexicans, and Jewish people were considered in the orange line with Irish and Italians, I believe.
Right.
Or maybe Irish and Italians had a higher status.
I think it was the Irish and then the Italians.
Yeah. Because if you notice, Irish and Italians are always like the police officers and the firemen in New York City. If you know anything about New York City, that goes back to when they started really coming to New York City, and those were like some of the only jobs that they could get at the time. That was like some of the best jobs they could get at the time, and it became like part of their culture. Like they would tell their family, like, "Yo, you can get a job working at the firehouse. I could get you one," and that's how a lot of these, a lot of them got jobs back then and became, some type of hardworking member of society. It was through that. Before that, they were even maybe during because redlining lasted up until like 1969. It was still a legal practice. They were doing that with a bunch of different people, man. But definitely not like what they did to African Americans, but just to show you how they were making a difference between other white people, and they were calling them swarthy or even, you know, dark skin to some extent because they considered them a little bit different. Yeah, man. But that's how I think the Israelites look too. I don't think the Israelites look like dark skinned sub-Saharan African like they're trying to claim.
None of those folks looked
know,
looked at that way.
Yeah.
None of those characters looked that way. Like they didn't have flat noses over there.
Right.
You know, in that region, that whole region.
That was one of the things that they used to always use to describe Jewish people. It was like their nose, their hook noses.
Right. But all those groups had hook noses.
Yeah.
There's even the Egyptians. They had a hook nose as well.
Right.
All those groups had hook noses.
Yeah, they look similar. I mean, you can see the similarities between people in that area, Israelites and Egyptians. That's why Paul was mistaken for an Egyptian.
Right.
If Paul was mistaken for an Egyptian in the Ptolemaic era of Egypt, where if you look at the way people looked in Egypt during that time, you know, they didn't look definitely didn't look like sub-Saharan Africans, black, dark skin with the coarse hair and all of that. It's easily distinguishable. A person of that part of the world and that part of Africa, you can tell the difference is noticeable. And they've done DNA tests all throughout Egypt, and we know the majority of people there, their DNA is pretty much very similar to what an Israelite is, and sometimes it even falls in the same haplogroup as what they call Jewish people. You see that Egyptians are in that same haplogroup. Egyptians are considered Caucasians.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't know that, but Egyptians are considered Caucasians. You can look it up. But
dark skin, Caucasian.
Yeah. They call them Caucasians with tan skin or dark skin.
Which most of those people, when you talk about the Hamites, that's who they were. They were like a dark skinned Caucasian type group.
Right. But you know what's funny is that Canaan is supposed to be from Ham, but Canaan is Semitic. The Canaanites were Semitic people. They spoke they used the Phoenician alphabet.
Right.
So that throws a whole monkey wrench in their entire belief when you go into how Canaanites are actually Semitic. How are they Semitic when the Bible tells you that they come from Ham? So wouldn't they be Hamitic? So what makes them Semitic? If you just read any basic information on Canaanites, and you can see that there were many similarities between Canaanites and the Israelites, and scholars and historians, archaeologists will tell you that the evidence points to Israelites actually coming out of the Canaanites. That's why it says that Canaanites were a Semitic people. They spoke Semitic languages. They were part of the larger Semitic language group. Canaanite is a linguistic classification for a group of languages in the West Semitic branch. And because Canaanite languages are closely related to languages like Hebrew and Phoenician, the people who spoke them are also considered Semitic. So there it is right there. I think that throws a whole monkey wrench in the Hebrew Israelites' belief, and even people that want to believe that the Bible stories are actually true. They have to admit that, you know, Canaanites are not Hamitic; they're actually Semitic. So how do you explain that one if they supposedly came from Ham?
Right.
People suggest there's scholars that suggest that whole story was all a political story to make a distinction between the Canaanites so that the Israelites can take their land. And that's exactly what happened. Yeah, so they can take them out of the ancestry, like they're not do anything because they have no genetic connection. You're a Canaanite, so I think that story was put in the Bible because of that, and it was all a political move and strategy to take people's land back then. Yep, that's what the Israelites did. Everybody knows the Israelites took the Canaanites' land, and they just say, well, it belonged to them. The same people claiming that Native Americans, this land belongs to Native Americans, and these are Hebrew Israelites that are okay with taking the land of Canaan, though they have nothing to say about that, because God supposedly ordained it, and there's a lot of English settlers and Spanish explorers that would say that God ordained them to come to the Americas, and this is a manifest destiny and all this stuff that they would like to say, to try to use the power of God to make it okay to do the things that they're doing, which overall it's considered human rights violations. But here we are today, man. Hebrew Israelites claiming that black people claiming they're Hebrew Israelites, that Hispanics are Hebrew Israelites, the Native Americans are too. This is yeah. This stuff came out of 1 West 125th Street. This is Harlem stuff, man. This is like some trickery for real.
That shit drove me crazy for years, man. That stuff drove me crazy for years.
Yeah, trying to figure out what's wrong about it, because we took it as if it was true without any question.
Yeah.
We actually want to get to the bottom of these things, and you see these people, they won't even let you get the conversation, get to a good conversation, because they want to dominate and not let certain things come out, so that's what happened with the IUIC. I'll probably revisit that whole story another time and use some of those snippets, but yeah, I'm gonna call it a night, man, because we've been going for 2 hours already.
No problem, sir. It was good speaking to you.
Yeah, good talking to you too, man. I was looking at to see if they got the results from that Trey Reed so-called lynching in Delta State University. They were supposed to do a second autopsy, Colin Kaepernick, and they never wanted to come out with the results. I think what happened was they found out that it confirmed the first autopsy results, and then they never came out with that. Remember we were talking about that?
We were briefly getting into the blows about that.
Yeah,
we were going to blows with each other.
But I went back and kept looking to see if they were going to release the autopsy results, because supposedly Colin Kaepernick did an independent autopsy, and they never wanted to come out with the results. I wonder why, right? I don't know. I thought that was funny because they involved Ben Crump, and they were trying to turn it into a whole civil rights thing, or a whole, another protest thing. But once the autopsy results came out, which, that was concluded with the coroner's report. That's what I was trying to say, that situation, that's the type of stuff that Hebrew Israelites be looking for.
Yeah, that's the only thing. Those are the only things that keeps those groups going, though.
Yeah.
Hate crimes, racial upheaval, and stuff like that. And when you get those emotions out there, it gives them the power to say, now, how can you deny the curses of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, and blah, blah, blah,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
man. All right.
But
well,
actual biblical, factual research of these lands and areas, that's what gives them a hard time.
Right. Yeah, it's
Historical, looking up the history of where these things come from, where these writings come from, even the origins of where they were inspired. That gives them a hard time.
yeah. I agree,
I'm sorry,
man.
Chief.
You're good. I appreciate. Thank you for coming through, man. We'll
Thank
definitely
you.
do this another time.
Thank you.
All right, man. Y'all have a good night. Well, thank you for joining San Miguel. I'm out of here. Peace out, Jay, and everybody else. Chris, Jimmy Jordan, Be the Dude. I see a wet in the house. Jim Green came through. Willie, appreciate you coming through. And sorry for the technical difficulties. We still made it happen. I see Brother Haram, the one. Yeah, a few people came by. Thank you. I'm calling it a night. Y'all could join me. I'll be on Faithful to God's live stream this Friday. I believe we're still doing it this Friday. Stay tuned for that. And we'll do this again next time. Appreciate y'all coming through as we demolish and destroy IUIC and Hebrew Israelite rhetoric. All right. Peace out.